Time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News. Are bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight, the Sun's Charlie Wyatt, Martin Ziegler from The Times. Welcome along to you both. We'll speak to you very, very shortly. Let's just quickly run you through the back pages as we have them so far this Monday evening. Well, there are some brilliant images on the back of the papers, and this is one of them. Keely Hodgkinson, mission accomplished. Hodgkinson storms to gold and takes place among greats. On the back of the Telegraph, she's a women's 800 metres Olympic champion, going one better than her silver in Tokyo. Back page of the Express calls her majestic as they superimpose a crown on Keely. Said she reigns supreme to seal 800 metres gold, and also a red carpet for Emma Finucane they're talking about in the Team GB's women's sprint cyclist there in the velodrome, getting their first women's team sprint medal of any colour, in fact. Back page of The Sun, again, has Keely Hodgkinson pictured and the women's team sprinters. She's Keely quick, says the headline. 800 metres crowning glory, and GB's Olympic golden girls. Yes, it was absolutely the girls who were dominating for Great Britain this evening. On the back page of The Guardian, I quite like this. Queen of the track, Super Keely goes ballistic. That is a little reference to a famous Sun headline from 2000, and storms to 800 metres gold. Also, just a side there, Twickenham to be renamed Allianz Stadium in new RFU deal, and at the top, the sad news of Graham Thorpe, former England batsman, coach, also a one-county man with Surrey, who passed away at the age of 55, as Mark Rabacash and Vic Marks pay tribute. And indeed, back page of The Eye, thank you Thorpe is the headline. Chris Doctor's piece, he says, the best person I met, covering the England team. And Adam Peaty has been pretty vocal about a number of things. The Team GB swimmer says there are worms in the fish. Peaty, not a fan of the Parisian fare that he is having to endure rather than enjoy there at the Olympics. And back page of the Metro, well, they produced this before, obviously, the golds for the women's team sprinters in the cycling, and indeed Keely Hodgkinson in the 800 metres, making a splash, but hopes dashed. Molly Caudry, Simone Biles denied, and triathletes downgraded on Day of Drama. Yes, in the mixed rated team triathlon event, Team GB were silver, but then they got downgraded to bronze after a review. Welcome once again to Charlie Wyatt and to Martin Ziegler. Well, we've got to start with Queen Keely. I mean, it was brilliant, wasn't it, from Hodgkinson tonight? We knew she came in as the hot favourite, Charlie, but she delivered, and she just seemed in control throughout, didn't she? It was majestic, and it was never in doubt, it seems.
She was brilliant, and it's a terrific feel-good story, isn't it? There was a lot of pressure on her. Because, she was, as you say, the overwhelming favourite, but she coped with that really well. Composed performance. It wasn't the easiest, and it's not going to be, is it, the final of the 800 metres, but she did ever so well. And she really does appear such a likeable character, doesn't she? I think her life from tonight will change for the good. Certainly her career will. She was in command tonight. Loved every minute of it. And obviously some terrific pictures of her crossing the line and then hugging her family at the end. And while we've had, been some great performances and great medal achievements so far, and we'll get some more over the next few days, tonight was one of the standout nights of the Olympics.
Yeah, it really was. And we'll get on to the women's team sprinters in the velodrome in a moment. But, I mean, Martin, obviously, you look at some of the back pages, just saw the Express calling her majestic. And then, obviously, there was another one with the crown there. She's Keely quick in the back page of the Sun. There was always going to be this element of the triumph and the crowning. But I suppose also it's very well deserved, given the sort of near misses, I suppose. The twice that she's finished runner-up in the World Championships, she's had a silver medal there, and also in Tokyo. But it seems like she's just knuckled it down. Like 19 years of age, she won that silver medal in Tokyo, and she's knuckled down and she's gone, no, look, this is going to happen in Paris for me, and she's just driven relentlessly towards this goal.
Yeah, as you say, she was only 19 in Tokyo, and actually I thought that in itself was an amazing achievement. But on her form, and no wonder she was the favourite, because she's just been remarkable, almost unbeatable, hasn't she, in the last few months. So no wonder she was by far and away the favourite. but that comes with its own pressure. And she dealt with it very, very well. Led from the front from about 200 to 300 meters, and that was it. Ran her race. Nobody could go with her, and I think for a lot of people, these 800 meters, 1500 meters, they're such a sort of blue ribbon event at the Olympics, aren't they? I mean, they are for many people the really top events at a games. Think back to people like Seb Coe, Steve Avett, and Kelly Holmes in 2004. Now Keely Hodgkinson, she's joined those ranks.
Yes, and they're only 10 in number as well. I mean, it just goes to show, Charlie, how rare this sort of achievement is. Track and field gold medal winner for Team GB. And they do stand out because they're just not very, very numerous. But what about, I suppose, you mentioned that her life is going to change. She's got the world at her feet now. She's an Olympic gold medalist. She's just 22 years of age. How much do you think she can go on and achieve now?
Well, she's got years ahead, hasn't she? I think the first thing she's going to do, she spoke to the media obviously yesterday. She's going to, when she comes back to England, she's going to buy herself a beige Porsche. So I don't think anyone will deny that pleasure. And it's going to be an incredible few years for her. She could. It's easy to say she could dominate. Well, we don't know, what could be around the corner even in 4 years' time in Los Angeles. But look, she's going to be a star. She is a star. And as you've just said, it really does hammer home the achievement when she is only the 10th British woman athlete to win a gold medal at the Olympics. That is extraordinary. That does show you really how difficult it really is. And that's why she'll get all the fame and fortune that she deserves. And as I said earlier, she seems a real natural personality. And that is why, other than the fact that she's a brilliant athlete, but her whole demeanour is why she is a real hit with the public, I think.
Let's get to the other golden ladies of this evening, which are Emma Finucane, Sophie Capua and Katie Marchant. And this is in the velodrome, women's team sprinters, who had never won a medal of any sort before now. On the first night in the velodrome, this is a real statement, wasn't it, Martin? And it was thrilling drama too, because it felt like, that world record just kept tumbling. Germany, New Zealand, and then back to Team GB in the final when they needed it the most.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a way to win your first medal in the team sprint for the women, not just to do it in that sort of style, but to smash the world record and obliterate the opposition. It was brilliant. And for Emma Finucane, I mean, she could have 3 goals, couldn't she? I mean, she's the world champion, the world sprint champion. She's certainly the favourite to get at least one more. And I think Laura Kenny was saying she thinks she could get 3 more. She could get 3 in total, and the whole British team could get 8 gold medals, which would be better than the London Olympics. It would be I think their best haul ever. And that would really push the whole of Team GB right up that medal table.
Do you know what? It is one of those things, Martin. I don't know about you guys, but I do sort of slightly nerdily keep a very close eye on the medal table. And as you say, getting to this point now where they've made that statement, first gold medal win in the velodrome, and then you feel that this could be the time where they do rise above the likes of Australia, France, who are above them. Maybe not quite China, USA territory. That would take some effort. But even so, this could be the time for Team GB. We're going to talk about Simone Biles in a minute, but let's sort of continue with the British successes. And back page of the Metro features the other stories that, because they published this before, Keely Hodgkinson and the women's team sprinters in the cycling. Making a splash, but hopes dashed, it says there. Jo Clark, Kimberly Woods, both among the medals in the kayak cross. Charlie, for me, it's right up there in my top 3 events right now, the kayak cross. It's just brilliant entertainment, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I totally agree with you. Really enjoyed watching it. Obviously, that specific event was the first time it's been at the Olympics. But in 2012, I covered the kayaking. It's in Cheshunt, Lee Valley, and it was just so entertaining. And it's just one of those sports. It's a bit like I really like watching the mountain bikes, and I like watching the BMX racing as well. I think those 3 have been the ones that you obviously wouldn't normally watch it. But I think lots of sports fans have been really glued to all 3 of those events, and particularly the kayaking today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Joe Clark, Kimberly Woods getting more medals for Team GB. I was there actually last week to watch Adam Burgess and thinking not necessarily guaranteed a medal, but he also got a silver. And I have to say, when Nico Gestin, who's an absolute wonder for France, got the gold by 5 seconds, the place went nuts. And they have absolutely celebrated this entire event, not just their own gold medals. And I can imagine, as you say, in the BMX, the French 1-2-3 the other night was something special, wasn't it? I mean, the place just, the roof came off. It's been that kind of games. OK, let's talk about Simone Biles. I mean, Martin, she is such a unique athlete, one of the all-time greats, but today proved that she is human.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Simone Biles, she'd been through some really testing times, hadn't she? So, I mean, yes, she's human. She didn't get the gold medal this time. But, I mean, I just think that her whole performances here, I mean, she's far older than just about any other gymnast. I think 6 years older than any other female gymnast to have won medals at the Olympics. And the way she's done it has been brilliant. And I think there was a lot of weight burden on her shoulders after what she's been through, what she's come out and said publicly about her past history. So to do this and absolutely capture the hearts of everybody, actually she's done amazingly. And I actually think not winning the gold medal in a way sort of made people think, well, she's not got everything, and probably made them even fonder of her.
Do you think she'll compete in LA in 4 years' time?
I wouldn't be surprised because, I mean, for somebody like that to be at a home Olympics, I mean, she must think she can do anything, and that must be a huge temptation to try and get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It being at home. OK, thank you very much indeed for the moment. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at more of tomorrow's back pages, including this in the eye. And it is such a sad story. He was such an entertaining cricketer. He could play with flair. He could play with grit. Graham Thorpe has died at the age of 55. And thank you, Thorpe, is the headline there at the top of the back page of the eye. Welcome back. You're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back also to Charlie Wyatt from The Sun, Martin Ziegler from The Times. OK, we're going to go to a sad story now, which is on the back page of the eye, but it's a triumphant celebration of Graham Thorpe, whose death, age 55, was announced. This was him celebrating a century against the West Indies in Barbados 20 years ago. Martin, I mean, he was an immensely popular figure, wasn't he, in an England team as a batter, as a teammate, in the coaching setup, involved in Australia, helping, nurture the great players over there, the likes of Steve Smith and David Warner. An immense loss to English cricket because he was such a great talent, wasn't he, Martin?
Yeah, he was a special batsman, wasn't he? He fell ill, seriously ill a couple of years ago, and even so, I think it was a great shock to a lot of people to find out that he died. But he was from the 90s and 2000s, one of those batsmen who seemed fearless at times, made centuries where the most testing of circumstances. I mean, a couple stand out once in Sri Lanka against Muruletharan and then against Shane Warne in Australia. But not many people could have done what he did. But he had this natural talent, a brilliant footballer as well, I think. But I think he actually played for England under-18s football, so he was an all-round sportsman. But cricket was his true talent. Yeah,
and I mean, you mentioned those particular knocks, against those particular bowlers, Murali and Shane Warne, the greatest spin bowlers who could, to be able to cope with them and to be such a good player of spin. Charlie, what about you? I mean, for a man who could deal with, the sternest of tests. I mean, on his Ashes debut, hit 100 against Australia, against, again, another fearsome bowling attack. I mean, he seemed to have nerve when it was an era of English cricket where you couldn't say that about many of his teammates necessarily in that batting lineup.
No, it wasn't just the fact that he was a brilliant cricketer, batsman. He was incredibly consistent. There's a spell in the noughties where you got 20 tests, average 73. I mean, that's just remarkable. And that just proves that over a period of time, he was one of, he will be remembered as one of England's best ever batsmen. Obviously, 17 years at Surrey as well. So, very sad day for them, but obviously everyone involved, not just in English cricket, but the entire world.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Memories of that 64 not out in Karachi, England winning that test and that series in Pakistan. And also, wasn't named in the 2005 Ashes squad because they preferred Ian Bell and Kevin Peterson. That was his moment to retire. And, England obviously it helped lay the foundations for England eventually winning back the Ashes. OK, let's move on to the back page of The Sun and talk transfer news. You can see on the left-hand side there, Pep set for 70 million mad sale of Julian. Mad for Madrid, and Julian is Julian Alvarez. Charlie, this is your paper. What do you make of this as a move? Manchester City have sort of sold players before and not the main players. Julian Alvarez is, one of those who features regularly, but he's not absolutely first-team starter all the time. £70 million represents, for me, relatively good value. Would you say the same?
Maybe, but in today's sort of inflated market, he's a player that scored 19 goals for City last season, 54 appearances. Obviously, a lot of those weren't starts. I don't think City really wanted him to leave, but equally that sum of money, I think they'd probably preferred over 80 million for him. But I think we're going to get a bit of proper activity now, aren't we? Let's not forget the Premier League season starts on Friday week, doesn't it? But yeah, I think we're going to have some musical chairs now. This is going to free up some money. And it looks as though Conor Gallagher could be going to Madrid as well, which is another interesting move. But Alvarez hinted that a few weeks ago that he wasn't totally happy being on the bench and playing a bit part. And I think he's realistic to know that that's not changing with Erling Haaland ahead of him. So he's going to obviously quite keen to play for Diego Simeone in Madrid. I'm sure he'll do well there because he's a really good player. And that will be a loss for City, even though he's not their first choice striker. Still a really good player and young.
Martin, how do you see City? We're approaching the start of the season. Obviously, got the Community Shield against United next weekend, and then they start the Premier League season. Do you feel confident they're in a decent place to retain their title? Do you feel that the others have made up significant enough ground to really give them more than a bloody nose this time around?
Well, I think with Pep Guardiola there and the players he's got and the depth of the squad, they've got to be the favourites again. But I do think Alvarez is going to be a difficult player to replace because there are times last season Haaland was injured for a bit, and when you've got somebody of that stature or of that class to come in and fill that position, and also to come off the bench and actually play with Haaland sometimes as well, that's very difficult to replicate. So he's going to be a serious loss, and I think they will need to try and replace him somehow or with somebody if they're not to find that their squad has been weakened.
Yes, well, knowing Pep Guardiola or, the way that they work at Manchester City, I'm sure that they have targets identified if should the sale go through. OK, let's go to your paper, Martin. We'll stick with you on this one. And on the right-hand side there at the top, Twickenham to be renamed. Explain.
Yeah, after more than 100 years, Twickenham, they've sold the naming rights for the stadium. And it's going to be called the Allianz Stadium after the insurance giants. I think maybe some traditionalists will be sort of think this is a step too far, but I think rugby's a sport struggling for money at the moment. The RFU relies on income from ticket sales, hospitality at Twickenham, but that's its most lucrative source of money, and they've got lots of expenses. They've got 3 Premiership teams went bust last year, didn't they? So if they need some money from somewhere, and this, I think, if you look at what football stadiums get, this could be worth somewhere between £5 to £15 million a year.
Charlie, how do you feel generally about the topic of stadiums being renamed or the naming rights being sold? We saw the sort of farcical situation with Newcastle United not so long ago with Sports Direct when Mike Ashley was in charge. I mean, especially with something like Old Trafford, and it sounds like one of the new sponsors there, Snapdragon, who are Manchester United's now new sponsors, that they would be open to, if there was a naming rights deal up for grabs on the table, that they'd like to investigate that, or they'd be open to it. What's your take on this?
Well, I think they're two different subjects. You've got the situation where a team moves to a stadium, the Emirates being one. It's known as the Emirates, isn't it? Everyone calls it the Emirates. It's not known as Ashburton Grove. We call it the Emirates. And of course, in Munich, it's the Allianz Arena. Bayern moved in there just before the 2006 World Cup, and it's known as that. It's slightly different when it's an iconic venue like Twickenham. I just can't believe that many people are going to suddenly start calling it the Allianz Stadium. Obviously, Allianz are around the world. They've got also stadiums in Sydney, in Nice, where England lost to Iceland. That was the Allianz Riviera, or is rather. But I think it's very difficult when it is a ground that we already know, and it can get quite confusing. Looking in sort of EFL further down in League One, League Two, you do tend to forget what a stadium's called when every 2 or 3 years they're chopping and changing. But ultimately, I think a lot of people will still call it Twickenham.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would be Twickenham for me. OK, let's very briefly, if you can, Martin, on back page of the Eye. There are worms in the fish. PT pans Paris food. Adam Peaty's quite punchy. He's opining on a few subjects, isn't he, this Olympic Games?
Yeah, he's had his say about Chinese swimmers. Now, yes, it's the food. I mean, we know that Team GB were very unhappy with the food at the start of the Olympics. The organisers insisted they got it under control and making improvements, but actually, what Petey is saying is that it's still really bad. And actually, when you think of salmon fillets with the traces of worms or whatever, that sounds very unappetising. And I'm not surprised that he and other athletes are up in arms about it, because it's high performance arena, this isn't high performance food.
Fantastic. We'll leave it there. Charlie, Martin, thank you very much indeed. Back pages tonight. Back tomorrow, 10:30.